Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name's David, and I'm a technical expert with OM System, and we are very proud to be supporting Campkins Cameras and the Cambridge Photography Week and Cambridge Photography Show this weekend. So hopefully you've already been enjoying some of the things that the Cambridge Photography Week has to offer. I'm sure that Campkins will be spreading lots of posts around to remind you of everything that's going on in the week. But with me today, hopefully you'll be able to hear a little bit more about the fantastic OM-1 and its focusing options and abilities. As always, in all of the live streams I do, you're more than welcome to ask any other technical questions. So do please feel free to pop those in the comments just down there, and I'll do my very best to answer them. And of course, if you can't stick around to watch, then this is recorded. You can watch it afterwards. You can come back to it. You can leave more comments afterwards, or even better, if you are in the UK and you can make it to Cambridge, come down on Saturday to the Cambridge Photography Show at the Hilton Hotel in Cambridge. So with all that out of the way, please do say hi in the comments. Let me know if there's any technical problems. I'm all on my own, so I've got nobody to let me know if there's anything going on in the background. You are my eyes and ears, so tell me if something's going wrong. But if not, I'll do my best to keep up and show you what I've got in terms of the OM-1's focusing power. Just a quick hello to Campkins, who've said hello in the comments already. Hi Campkins, not sure who's manning the comments over there at Campkins, but hello to you. And hello to Edward, who's just popped in as well, who's our fellow Flatlander. Fantastic stuff. There are a couple of questions already in the comments, which I will come to as we go through. But I'm going to start a slide presentation, just to give you a quick idea, a recap of the OM-1, and then kind of going into the focusing options and things like that. And please remember, if you put in anything in the comments as well, I will either get to it or I'm about a minute in the future. So I tend to not see things at the time that you directly put them up, but I'll do my very best. Okay, let's have a look at what I've got to show you here. Okay, so let's talk. Yeah, perfect. Let's talk a little bit about OM-1 to start with. And let's just have a little bit of a recap on what OM-1 has in store for its users. So, of course, when we OM System released the OM-1, or announced it, in fact, it was exactly 50 years since the original 35mm OM-1 was launched. So you can kind of see where that legacy comes from. And we really wanted to hold on to that legacy as well in terms of everything that has happened since OM-1 and since we became OM System with the transition from Olympus. And there are 5 kind of key aspects that we wanted to make sure the camera had, and those were next-gen image quality, amazing computational photography options, unparalleled speed within the camera, total reliability and durability, and we wanted to really up the video capabilities as well. So those are the 5 aspects that we wanted to really push through for the camera. And all of that starts at the heart of the camera. So there's 3 kind of main places in the camera that give us the beginnings of those 5 kind of ethics that we wanted to stick to. And that is a brand new stacked backside illuminated sensor, which gives you 2 stops more better noise performance and a whole stop's worth of better dynamic range. There is a TruePic X processor, which is the 10th generation processor in our lineup, which is 3 times faster than the previous generations and has a readout of up to 120 frames per second, which works at about 0.08 milliseconds. That kind of thing can affect what would have been seen as any rolling shutter effects on previous generation silent shutter models. The sensor readout is what prevents that. The faster it is, the better that kind of thing performs in. And of course, we have industry-leading, class-leading image stabilization. Now, we've only made it better with this model, 10% lighter, but much, much stronger than its previous iterations. Something really exciting that the OM-1's got is the cross-quad pixel autofocusing system. So this is really key when we talk about autofocusing power with the OM-1. And of course, we've had phase detect or PDAF systems in our cameras for many years, but we're now using PDAF, which is phase detection autofocus, with that cross quad pixel AF technology, which means that underneath every single photo site and AF area are a further 4 crossed areas as well, which means that, as you can see there's a 1053 focusing points across that entire frame. You can basically times that by 4 because of the cross quad pixel AF. And try saying that fast 3 times. It's really difficult, I promise. And something that came across from our OM-1X model cameras is the AI detection. So AI detection is effectively a learning process. It's a deep learning algorithm whereby the camera works out exactly what's going on in any given frame, and it uses the cross quad pixel AF across the whole sensor to do this phase detection focusing super quickly, and creates a depth map. And it uses that depth map in order to negotiate the AF as it carries on, as it moves forward with its processes. Within that AI detection, you have subject detection for motorsports, which is cars, racing cars, bicycles, motorbikes, things like that, aerial vehicles, birds, and cats and dogs as well. And we're seeing lots and lots of reports from users that the cats and dogs works exceptionally well with lots and lots of other mammals. It's twice as accurate as the OM-1X's bird detection and 3 times faster due to the new processor. We've also added an independent auto exposure lock button and AF on button. So the AF on button is going to be the back button focusing option in the OM-1, where in previous models you would have to remap the AEL button in order to create a back button focusing function. But here you can keep the 2 absolutely separate and use back button whenever you like. It's slightly further out near the thumb grip, which makes it a lot easier to use in practice. And then this slide just gives you kind of a quick recap of the other things that are in the camera that I'm not going into today in terms of a full exploration of the camera, because we're mainly focused on focusing. So you have dual UHS-2 card slots. You've got your 1053 phase detect cross AF points, 8 stops of image stabilization when using a Sync IS lens, 520 shots battery lifetime on the new BLX1. You do have a backside illuminated quad pixel Bayer pattern sensor, and that's related to having better color reproduction. And so many other things, including video functionality up to 240p, 4K at 60p, and shooting speed in still images up to 120 frames per second. So tons and tons and tons of stuff, aside from the focusing options that we are looking at today. So we're going to get to know this focusing system a little bit, but before we do that, I'm just going to come back in and take a look into some of the comments. Cambridge Photography Week are in saying hi. Of course, it's their week this week. Say hi back to them. We've got, let's see if I can pick any questions through here. Richard's saying can't join the live stream because Richard's working. Be sneakily looking at it on your phone. I give you permission. Don't tell the boss though. Rich has been doing rugby with an OM-1 and a 40-150 Pro lens and wants to know what recommended focusing mode options there are. Well, Richard, come back in, and if you can't watch this live, come back in and have a look, and I'll give you some pointers as we go through those focusing options as well. Pete, hi Pete, has asked a query on using subject detection and what camera settings such as CAF or continual autofocus plus sequential, can you use back button focusing as well? Yeah, you can use back button focusing for any type of focusing mode with the exception of manual focusing in the OM-1. And the only feature that you can't use back button focusing to activate is Pro Capture, the sort of time machine pre-buffering feature. You can use back button focus to focus, but you must use a front halfway press to activate the Pro Capture process. But everything else can use back button on there. Hello to a few people. Sharpie is in from Hello Sharpie, and hello Cliff Harvey as well. Glad you made it in. Pony's also asked about rugby, so we'll come on to that later on and give you some pointers about that one. Mark Farrington has asked about a trip to Kenya, which sounds exciting, and wants to know what the experience has been with African animals and subject detection focus. Well, I've had a couple of people come back to me when they've been on safari recently with the OM-1 and the subject detection and report really, really good results, obviously, particularly with big cats. Now, I think the only time you're probably going to experience an issue is that some animals and some cats are designed to be camouflaged. And if they're in their very specific camouflaged environment, the whole idea is that they can't be seen. Now, of course, the computer is a computer and looks for various things within that to try and identify that. But if a big cat is definitely well hidden in the grasses and trees and things like that, I think that's the only time you might ever experience something. But if they're seeable, if they're visual, you should be fine. Other elephants, such as elephant and rhino, I have heard that elephants have been reacting very well to the dogs and cats AI. Remember, it's designed to be dogs and cats. If it doesn't focus on something that isn't a dog and a cat, we can't really shout at it too much at this stage. However, the reports are really, really good in terms of mammals in general. So hopefully that gives you a bit more confidence on using it when you go over to Kenya. Mayland's in from Perth. Good to see Mayland. Always good to see you. Nice to see that we have people from all over the world joining us here at the Cambridge UK Photography Week, which is brilliant. It's good to see that we have such an engaging community. Okay, so I'll do another question from the comments and then I'll pop over to the slides and we'll go forward and see what we've got. Not a question, but Ryan's been using the OM-1 for aviation and it's a superb camera for the genre. That's really excellent feedback, Ryan. Thanks so much for putting that in the comments. And Camkins have reminded everybody that there will be lots of amazing OM system and Olympus deals going on if you come to the show on Saturday. How fantastic is that? Even I don't know about that. Somebody needs to tell me about those deals because I'm going to be there. Yeah, come and see me at the Cambridge Photography Show on Saturday. And if I've got time, I'll give you a camera and lenses, a little bit of a clean up. Not as good as our official check and clean service, but my own personal clean up if we've got time. Right, let's go back over to some slides and see exactly what's going on. Let's look at autofocus settings on the OM-1 in detail. So here is an important terminology that we need to look at. The things that you have within the camera are as follows. You've got SAF, which is your single autofocus, where the camera will focus once when the shutter button's halfway pressed. We're all quite familiar with that one. CAF, or continuous autofocus, whereby a halfway press makes the camera repeatedly continue focusing on whatever is within the AF field that you've generated. And MF, manual focus, of course, using the ring, focus ring on your lens to focus on your subject. We've also got CAF plus TR. This is the plus tracking mode. And it's the same as being in continual autofocus, but once the tracking is locked, the focus follows that subject within the frame, within your viewfinder or your back screen. Now, a lot of people ask me if we should be using tracking with subject AI detection. And in my opinion, not really. No, you don't need to, because the subject AI is there to track for you. But you should be using CAF plus TR for things that don't come under the subject AI umbrella. So subjects that are not listed in there that you might want to track and follow. You have a pre-MF or a preset manual focus where you can input a distance, whereby when you go to preset MF, it will jump to that focus distance. And you have, of course, the amazing Starry Sky autofocusing system, which is designed for night starscapes and locking on to those stars with amazing precision. You can also customize any of the AF target grids that you use within the OM-1. So this is a really fantastic feature whereby you can make the grids as big or as small or whatever shape you specifically need in terms of the subject that you're shooting. And you can go in through the dedicated AF menu and you can go across to page 5, which is where you've got your target settings or your grid field settings, and you can input any changes into that third and final screen there. And if you put a tick in the checkbox by pressing the OK button next to those options, that means that those AF areas will be available to you when you want to select them from the super control panel. If they're not ticked, then they won't be available as an option. Now, when you go through you have the options to select all AF points. That's all 1053 AF points, or you can choose a very tiny single point, a cross-section frame, a mid-section frame, or a large section frame before going on to 4 customizable target areas where you can design the shape, size, and layout of those. Now, within those, you have the option to adjust the horizontal or vertical height of the AF field, and you can also define whether or not the sensor is deactivated in between certain points as well, so you can further narrow down the areas that the sensor can focus on. Now, it's really important when whatever AF mode you're using and whatever AF field you're using, you combine it with the correct AF sensitivity. And AF sensitivity is basically how quickly the camera refocuses within a given AF field, or how sensitive it is to the moving target that you're tracking when using CAF plus TR. Okay, so that's the kind of area that this is connected to. So we look at this from +2 to -2 and 0 right in the middle. +2 is great for really quick moving subjects, little birds, small finches, starlings, great tits, things like that. Anything that moves very quickly and perhaps in an erratic pattern. And +1 is really suitable for larger birds with a constant speed, but in a singular direction. Okay, so they might be quite fast moving, but left to right, up, down, or from near to far, etc. And a larger kind of bird. And I would put that in the kind of sort of heron or cormorant size as well. 0 is the default. Everything's set into 0. 0 is good for sort of any day, every day, walking around, snapshotting away on things that are probably not moving very, very fast or in a complicated manner. -1 is suitable when the only object to focus on is in the frame. So if you're looking at one bird in the whole frame and you're using AI detection, then -1 is absolutely fine, and it will follow that throughout the frame when using AI detection. And -2 is excellent if you think that something might pass between you and the subject that you're targeting. So to put that into example, if you're focusing on a bird that's flying from left to right across the frame and you're moving with it, you're panning with it, but during that pan, a tree passes between you and the bird as you pan, -2 will keep the lock on your subject rather than thinking that the tree is something that it needs to focus on and hopping off onto it. So it's very much a case of ignoring any intersecting objects. And I can't stress enough that it is super, super important to make sure that you're using the right sensitivity combined with the right size AF field for your subject to get the best results. Now, we had some people talking about rugby. So within rugby, I would say -2 is a fantastic option, because if you're focusing on a specific rugby player and you have lots of other players on the field that may be running between you and that AF point that's locked on, you need -2 to maintain it on that one player. So that's a really good starting option when we're talking about rugby or any other sorts of sports fields like that, where you could have things running in front of your lens, annoyingly, between you and your subject. So start on -2 for those options. And I think that was Pony Moore that asked that question, and Richard Hall as well. So hopefully that helps you there. So this gives you an idea visually of what we're looking at. Okay, so AF sensitivity +2, a squirrel. He's going to dodge around. He's going to run around. He's going to change direction. He's looking for them nuts, and he's going to be all over the place. So +2 for him. +1 for the grumpy cat in the bottom left corner. 0 for standard group of birds that are just panning across. -2 for an absolute gaggle of them going on. There's loads of things going on in there, and you want to focus on just the one of those. And -1 for your average subject that's coasting in a pretty much constant direction at speed. I'm just going to leave that up there just for a second, just so you can get an eye on it, and also use this as an opportunity to take in some more coffee. Only the best Cambridgeshire coffee, of course, as it's Cambridge Photography Week. Okay. So another option that quite often gets overlooked, or misunderstood is the center priority option. Now, center priority by default will be on for a couple of different modes in your camera, in your OM-1 or in your OMD actually as well. And it's a prioritization with CAF and CAF plus MF. And it means that if the camera is not able to focus with the central AF point, then another AF point will be used. It means that it's always going to try and run a full cycle of AF within the central point inside any target grid first, before then assessing every other point that's within the grid that you've chosen. And to be honest with you, it's a great way to maintain a central focus in your composition as well. It sounds like it might not be useful, but it's actually quite useful. And that's why it's automatically on for a couple of the AF target fields. So before we go over to special hints and tips, just going to catch up with the comments. Mark, you're welcome for the African animal focus comments, no problem. Mark's also found it great for using bird focus on butterflies and dragonflies. Now, it's interesting because I've had kind of mixed results myself with butterflies and dragonflies when using bird detection. And I think it definitely varies, of course, on what angles you're shooting butterflies and dragonflies on. If they, represent a kind of winged shape, then yes, the bird AI is going to work very, very well. But again, don't rely on it. It does work well, but don't rely on these on these things. I quite often get the question of, will dogs and cats work on bears? And my reply is, well, it's not bear detection, but you may get lucky. And that's the best way to look at it. If it does work on these things that are not listed for AI subject detection, then it is a bit of a bonus. Malin's voting for Starry Sky AF, saying it works excellently for Astro. Malin's over in Australia, so you've got some great skies over there for that. And Tor, hello Tor. Tor Goldsmith is in, also in Australia. Procrastinating. Sorry, I read that completely wrong. Currently procrastinating the camera bag for heading to Perth, which means that Tor's got a half-empty camera bag in front of her, and nothing's going in it currently at the moment. There's nothing wrong with that. Just carry on watching this. You can procrastinate for a little bit longer. Okay, Mark's made a comment regarding subject detection CF tending to be attracted to grasses and leaves in front of the subject. So with the firmware update of 1.2 for OM-1, this actually addressed some of that slight front focusing and tightened up the AI detection. So make sure that your cameras are always up to date. Firmware 1.2 is the current one for OM-1. And another really, really good thing, if you are coming down to the Cambridge Photography Show on Saturday, or if you weren't planning on but needed a little carrot to dangle you in, then my carrot would be, if you are coming along to the Cambridge Photography Show on Saturday, I'll gladly update the firmware on your OM-1 for you. I'll only be able to do OM-1 firmwares on the day, just because of how busy we'll be and having everything set up to one firmware. But if you're coming along, I'll sort your firmware out and everyone will be happy. But Mark said that you've got a nice little workaround that works well by using CAF plus MF. Well, the plus MF override is a really good option for when you might be in those challenging situations of having to just focus a little bit further out or a little bit closer in. So that's exactly what I would use, Mark. But I would also probably combine focus peaking with that manual focus override, just so you can see a little bit of a glimmer of color on what you've got when you do that manual override. Okay. Tor's cat is in the bag. Well, don't close that bag. We're not going to start exploring Schrodinger's bag today. It's not fair on the kitty cat. Maybe take the cat to Perth, Tor, don't they? Okay, let's go back to the slides and see what special hints and tips we can give you today. Let's talk about fast switching on AF modes. This is one of my favorite things on pretty much most of the cameras, to be honest with you, but obviously OM is what we're focusing on today. And we have the FN lever that is beside the viewfinder there, and it's got the AL button on it. But the lever behind it does do the FN or function, and that by default is mapped to switch between two AF modes. And those AF modes are whatever you tell them to be whilst in each position. So for example, my favorite genre of photography is macro, and I will quite often shoot with the 60mm macro. If I shoot at 1:1, I'm in manual focus. And if I shoot Anything less than 1:1, it's autofocus. So what I will tend to do is position my lever in position 1. On the super control panel, I will set my autofocus to SAF. Then I switch the lever to position 2, and then on the super control panel, set it to manual focus. And it will remember those two options as I flick between 1 and 2, SAF and manual focus. And you can do that with any of the focusing modes, so CAF, CAF plus TR, Starry Sky, etc. Really, really useful, quick switching between AF points. Can't recommend it enough. Now, I have just noticed that I did see Mr. Williams, Effion Williams, in from Well Shot. Hello, in a rainy London now. I spotted you just up there, and I've just spotted another comment coming from you, Effion, saying you've used the OM-1 with the 100 to 400 at the racetrack on a number of occasions and find it more accurate and faster focusing. Another great feedback comment. Thank you for that. It's brilliant when people share with us these really good experiences. Okay, so if you haven't used it, use your FN lever to switch between AF modes. And of course, this is something that becomes almost a rite of passage when using Olympus and OM system products, is the fast switching manual focus clutch that is present on many of the pro lenses. Now, it's widely considered that you're not part of the gang if you haven't accidentally picked up your camera, slid this focus clutch back, and then wondered why your camera won't focus, and then frustratingly think that your camera's broken for a week. That happens. And it happened to me when we first released the 12-40 Pro Mark I, which was the first pro lens with this clutch. We had put it onto the smaller lenses, like the 17mm and the 12mm. But it's an excellent focus clutch. You just pull that front ring back, it displays your focus distances, and you can turn that to be instantly into manual focus. Now, of course, you can deactivate that. If you have problems with it, if you find that you're maloperating it, or pulling it back when you don't want to, you can adjust that in the menu, but it is a very, very useful pull focus for manual focus. Mark's saying, Mark's found the EVF so good that you haven't needed peaking. That's really good to know as well. Of course, this is a 5.76 million pixel OLED EVF in the OM-1. Good stuff. And Camkins are popping in some links. If you wanted links to go across to the product pages on Camkins cameras, you can go and see all the specs and things like that and availability of those products. Mayland has accidentally enabled the MF clutch. I think we all have at some point. If you own a lens with that clutch on, you have to have done it accidentally, but it is worth keeping active. Okay, let's talk about focusing for macro shooting. It's fantastic. I'm really excited because recently we announced the development of our Emswico 90mm macro lens. I absolutely can't wait for this to land. No further details as yet, because I know there's going to be a flood of comments saying, when's it coming? How much is it? Give us the full. I just don't know right now, but it is coming. So be excited about that. And you've got all these excellent AF features to be able to use with it when it goes in. So Super Spot AF is brilliant. This is basically going to magnify your view so that you can manually adjust focus, make sure that you're focused on the right spot. And it's really easy to just assign the magnification function to a button, any button, whether that's on the camera, or if you've got a pro lens with an LFN button on it, you can pop it on the pro lens button. And basically it's a three-step process, really. Once you've activated a magnification function to a button, you can press the button once during live view, and then a little frame, a little green box will be displayed where the camera will next zoom in. So you can then position that wherever you need to. Press the magnify button once more times, and it will jump in and zoom to the view that you see here with this teeny tiny little slug. And you've got arrows up and down, left and right, and you can move it around, and you'll see the magnification level in the bottom left corner, which you can adjust with the rear or front dial whilst it's in magnification. And you can go between 3 and 14 times as well. So plenty of scope for flexibility on the magnification. And then when you're done and you want it to go back to a normal view, you can press and hold the button that you mapped for magnification, and it completely deactivates it, and you're back to normal live viewing. Super, super functionality. Definitely good if you like macro shooting, but also definitely good if you're trying to get something that's way in the distance as well. So play around with that one. And your AI detection. So we touched on this briefly. AI detection AF is superb as a function, and you can add this to a quick map button as well. So you can program in your menu. So off the top of my head, you'd be going into the menu, you'd be going along to the gear tab on the top, and then in page 1, you would be going into button function, button settings, button function. And in there, find a button that you want to remap, and then add subject detection on there. Subject detection is a small icon that looks like a cube, a 3-dimensional cube with 4 corners around it. And then once you've added that button in from a live view, you can do one of 2 things. You can press the button that you've added for subject detection just once, and it will switch subject detection on in the last subject that you last used it in. So if you last used dogs and cats, when you press that button once, dogs and cats subject detection will be on. Press it again and it will be off. If you press and hold that dedicated button and twist the rear dial on your camera at the same time, you'll bring up the object detection choice. So you can go off motorsports, planes, trains, birds, cats, and dogs. And then when you release, it'll be left on that AI choice. So super, super useful and super quick. Now, obviously, when you're using that, it's really important to know the difference between CAF plus TR and CAF. And like I said at the start, I really don't think that you need to use tracking with subject AI detection. And most people will have used it with the OM-1X because that was the only option that you could use it with. But now we've got some differences between them. It's important to know those differences. So the CAF plus tracking means that when your object is detected and you've locked focus, the focus point will follow that object within the frame, within your live view, your EVF or your back screen, and focus will be continually focusing as it follows that tracked subject. If you use CAF on its own, once the object is detected and you've focused on it, the focus point will stay in that position even if your object moves outside of that AF frame. So you must pan and track with your subject if you're going to use CAF plus an AF target point. However, if you're using AI detection, the AI detection will track for you as well. Now, outside of AI detection, we've got things like the face detect, and there are a couple of different ways that you can use face detect focusing systems within the OM-1. One of the best things is being able to separate normal focusing and face detect focusing between buttons. So as you can see here, if you go to your menu and AF tab, which is the green one, you can go across to page 2 and select the face and eye AF button. Now the breakdown is here, it's set to a halfway button press, which is the gray line, to focus on faces. But if you use the AF on back button, it will prioritize the AF grid that you've selected and not focus on faces. So you can choose between a face detect or a non-face detect simply by using one of the 2 buttons. And you can change those around to your own preference as well. So that's quite handy if you're out and about shooting street photography, and you might sometimes be shooting people, but you might sometimes be wanting to focus on a vehicle or a building or something like that. You'll just simply use either the front button or the back button to focus on a face, and the opposite button to focus on everything else within a designated AF field. Some of the more complex features that we've got in the previous models as well are the AF limiters. It looks slightly different in here than it does to an OMD menu, but it is a little bit easier to understand. So the AF limiter basically allows you to decide where the camera focuses to start, so the nearest point that it will start, and the furthest point away that it will focus, nothing before and nothing after. And you can basically go into the menu, green tab again, all of your AF options are in your green tab, and go to the page 3 AF limiter, and you can switch it on and off in here, or you can set a button to be a quick toggle on and off as well. Then you can set the individual distances for AF limiter on 1, on 2, and on 3 options, and you simply putting in a point A to a point B. So you'll see there that on 1, point A is don't focus before 5 meters and focus anywhere up to 999, which is the infinity point. If you set this to a button, pressing and holding that button allows you to jump between on 1, on 2, and on 3 distances very, very quickly, very easily. This is super, super useful if you're shooting things for example, at a race, if you go to a racetrack and there's a maybe a wire mesh fence in front of you and you absolutely don't want to focus on that, so you'll set the AF limiter to only start focusing at a distance beyond that wire mesh, etc. And that's just a single example, but there are lots more different ways to utilize that. Wow, that time went absolutely fantastically quick. Thank you for watching, is what that slide says. 35 minutes has gone so quickly in terms of giving you that kind of whirlwind rundown of the AF areas. And there are lots more information available on the OM System YouTube. And of course, come down and see us at the Cambridge Photography Show on Saturday in Cambridge at the Hilton Hotel. If you want to ask any more questions in person, if you're watching this after the live, then I will try and come back in and answer any comments that you've got. If not, the fantastic team at Campkins Cameras can also get stuck in and answer some questions as well. So thank you, all of those of you that managed to come in on this Tuesday lunchtime live stream. Some of you are working, some of you are sneakily watching on your phone and listening in. So appreciate that as well. But enjoy the rest of Cambridge Photography Week and all of the live streams and things that it has to offer. Even if you're not local to Cambridge or even in the UK, then please do follow the YouTube channel because there'll be lots of other brands showcasing different things. But of course, Campkins do always like to get the best out of the way first. So that's why we've come on to do today. I'm only joking. I am kidding. Everyone else is fantastic that you're going to see this week. There are lots of I have lots of peers from around the industry that are coming on to do fantastic things. Lots of people from around the industry that are going to be in Cambridge at the show on Saturday doing different talks. I'll be talking on Pro Capture. There is people doing street walks like Kev Walker, all sorts of things going on. So enjoy the whole week. Thanks very much for listening in to me gabble on for 35-40 minutes, and I hope to see you all in person at some point. But if not, I'll see you online somewhere else. Thanks very much, and bye for now.